Okay, so this conversation I'm mighty excited about. I'm mighty excited about all the conversations that get done. Jeez. But when I called upon Stephanie, I was like, I can't just talk to Stephanie. I have to talk to Jim. Because Jim is, yes, Stephanie's husband, but Jim is Stephanie's caregiver as well. And I have watched over the years the hospital visits, those scary moments. And sure, we don't see the full story online, but the story I am seeing makes me go, okay, that is what a partnership is. That is what it is to be a best friend. And that is what it is to like have someone's back through thick and thin. And we say wedding vows, right? But then we gotta really pay attention to like those really special and testing moments. And to see the two of you is a gift. So welcome to the stage. Excited to have you. So, okay, I met Stephanie back in 2019, like you heard in the introduction. And this is another person who came to the masterclass. I was like, why are you here? But I'll take your money, thank you. What brought you to, this is not to say to my conversation, but what brought you there? You know, a lot of people, again, they assume you're coming to say the mic, it's to become a better public speaker, you want to be a keynote speaker or motivational speaker, you want to be on the stage. Your story was different.
Yeah, at the time, I was on the edge of something that would completely change my life. And I just had this visual in my mind that I needed a giant microphone to speak to the world to say what is happening is not right. But at the time, my voice felt very muted. I didn't feel comfortable raising my voice. I've always been super talkative. I've always had, my report cards say, Stephanie needs to stop talking. So I could talk to you about anything. But when it came to something that was very personal to me, that meant so much to my heart, I felt a lot of shame. So as the intro mentioned, I have cystic fibrosis. And this is something that I wanted to be, and I mean, I still do, I want it to be the least interesting thing about me. But being born with this disease that is terminal, so my life expectancy was 18. And it's hard not to change the vibe in a room when you say that. And that's just not the type of person I want to be. I want to be someone that's fun and energetic and brings brightness to a room, not just silences it with this depressing news. So the idea of having cystic fibrosis is something that I compartmentalized to such a disgusting degree because I was full of shame that no one knew about it. Even when I married Jim, no one knew. His parents didn't know. It'd be nice.
I was just gonna ask about that. I was like, so like, when did that come up? Day 1, day 10?
I tried to dump this guy so many times. I could not get rid of him. And I think I told him, thinking he might leave at that point. Like, tell him you're dying, that'll get rid of him.
Sorry, you just give the mic to Jim now.
Yeah.
You're on this date. She look at her, right? And then she's like casually, hey, I got this terminal thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, what did you say? Because, there's a lot of people who are not getting callbacks for like really minor things.
Well, yeah, first that made me fall in love with her. Then she tried to dump me before, and then I wheeled my way back in, which thank God I did. But at that time when she had told me, I remember sitting in your Honda Accord, and at the time it was just like, I don't know how else to describe it. It was like the loudest silence in my brain, because it was like, this is tremendously important information, and I don't know, I just knew at that moment not to be judgmental, not to ask too many questions, and also just let Steph own that moment and keep that truth of herself for herself. And Steph had asked me at that time too, this is very personal to me, I don't want you to Google it even, I don't want you to tell anybody about it. And I honored and respected that, although I did Google it. But I did honor and respect a tremendous portion of that, because this is what Steph owned. This was her truth. And it wasn't for me to be, in a position to question that. So, and it didn't deter me in any way, actually. If anything, it made me more determined. So
our first date, and it was a while before I told Jim about my CF, but my first date, he said, I just want to take care of people. And I was like, boy, do I have a project for you. back on the good list, that first date of milestones.
And that's when the plan started. So it was like,
Excellent.
It's like, there's a
you want to
chance.
take care? I'll give you something to take care of. All
Got a
right.
doozy for you.
I got a doozy. And you got that doozy, Jim.
Oh yeah.
And you
Yeah.
you did what? Well, we know what you did, but like honestly, if you could take us back 17 years ago to that
Mhm.
doozy moment. You were hit with this information. We've seen other people on a first or fourth date have different deal breakers.
Mhm.
Someone is telling you, this is my diagnosis. Are you in or are you out? I'm assuming. And
Yeah. So the only way I can describe it was this inherent need to want to take care of Steph. Because you're going to do this to me. I knew somewhere deep down inside that there was this tremendous person with so much to give. Because, like, I mean, not only is she like gorgeous, but artistic, creative, like lights up a room. And in my mind, I'm like, this person needs to be protected. Like, I needed to care for her. And so at the time, we had met when I had just gone back to school to be a poor student again for 4 years. And it wasn't like a seamless, easy transition for 4 years. It was up and down and together, not together. But like, she would date someone, I'd date someone, but ultimately we'd come full circle again. And there was one moment where I like grabbed her by her shoulders and I shook her. I'm like, you're dating losers. I don't know if I could say that.
Tell us.
I said, you're dating douchebags.
Yeah,
You need to be with me. And then from that point, it just kind of like, it just kind of continued from that point. And then, we are where we are now. But I just knew inherently that this is a person that needed to be protected. I need to keep her head above water. I didn't want the thing that she had no control over to be the thing that put her head underwater. I needed to help keep her head above the waves. That's what I felt. Yeah.
my gosh. What you're saying, Jim, it's okay, let me formulate my question here. You wanted to protect her, right? But you see you have this firecracker here. And I think, I like to believe that every person, in whatever relationship they are in, that the person they are with also has that desire. But they may not know how to do it, especially if somebody has a terminal illness. It's one thing to deal with the man cold or other stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to know that this is a journey that Steph's not just on by herself, you're now going on it with her. To the couples in the room and the people who have partners at home, and they want to help, they want to heal, but they just don't know how. Like, how, Jim? In Jim's words.
You gotta listen and you have to be patient. And you have to check your ego at the door. Because if you let your ego get in the way, and I'm Greek and I have the biggest freaking ego because I'm Greek, but you gotta be willing to let the person fill that space in that room themselves, and you're a participant and a partner in that. Because if you try and make it about you and you wanna, like, I inherently just wanna fix everything, right? Like, whatever it is. But you gotta listen and you gotta be patient and you gotta identify what it is that they need from you. And I'm not saying I was 100% doing that all the time. I mean, I'm not infallible, right? Like, being a human, you're gonna make mistakes, but Stephanie was also tremendously patient and understanding and open with me. And that, I think that's why, we were able to make it work the way that it has.
I love that answer. Also, Bulgarian feta cheese is better than Greek. Take the mic
That's
back.
debatable. We're gonna talk about that later.
I just want to choose a little violence here. Stephanie, I've known you to some extent since 2019, and you are, at least in my eyes, a fiercely independent and strong woman, right? How did you allow Jim to come in and say, like, let me help you? Because you've been living with CF well before meeting Jim, right?
Oh, yeah.
And now you have someone, like, did it ever cross your mind at some point, like, can I be loved? Will I be loved? Will someone understand what I'm going through?
Yeah, before Jim had a 5-year relationship and he wanted to propose, and my dad said no. My dad said, you are not the man that Steph needs in the future. Steph has a lot of big, difficult chapters ahead and you are not strong enough. And he said, I absolutely agree. Like, we're still friends now, and he said, Jim is being able to do everything I couldn't have done for you, Stephanie. So there was this real understanding from everyone's perspective that I needed someone unique and extremely strong, and that's what Jim is.
And so for the people in the room who are fighting battles of their own, and they know they need help, but it's hard for them to accept help. Like, what advice do you have for those people who they're going through their own thing? They know they need that support. They know they need someone to lean on, but they are so used to taking care of themselves. How can they open themselves up to receiving that love and support that they deserve?
I think seeing yourself and giving yourself grace first. I think if you can't give yourself grace, you're not going to offer help from others.
Yeah.
My biggest issue is self-acceptance. I felt like two individual people. We've heard that from a few people today, and I really resonated with that. I felt like someone that was this beautiful person that had a great family and great friends and traveled the world and had a career. And then on this side, I felt like a disgusting monster that was just born genetically very flawed and had a very dark future. So I saw these two separate beings, and Jim saw one, and he accepted both sides of me.
Wow.
And I didn't need a guy to accept both sides of me. It just so happened that my self-acceptance journey happened within our relationship, and he let me take the time to do that.
Ooh, okay. Let's just switch gears for a minor second here. I will never forget it. Stephanie took the Slay the Mic Masterclass 2019. I can't remember if you messaged me or something, and then I had to call you, and we cried on the phone
yes.
together.
Yeah.
When we got the news. Can you tell everyone in this room what that moment was, what led to that moment, and how you use your voice to achieve that moment?
So I took this Slay the Mic program at the end of 2019, but at the same time, in my world, there was a big shift happening. In 2018, a year before, I was being evaluated for a double lung transplant, and I was at end-stage lung disease with my cystic fibrosis. I arrived to Jan's class with 28% lung function. I was very tired, and I was still very deeply ashamed of my story and my journey. It was so deep-rooted that even saying the words cystic fibrosis, I'd have a mouth of marbles. I'd feel very ashamed, almost like I couldn't even pronounce the damn words of this disease I had for 40 years. And in the US at the time, the FDA was just approving a genetic modulator that would change the course for people with cystic fibrosis. So the error of a gene I have, it takes this gene and it changes the expression of that genetic code and almost fixes cystic fibrosis. Can't reverse damage, but that running tap that ruins your lungs. It just kind of stops, it just turns off that tap, and it helps you just start to heal with cystic fibrosis. This is something that was in the US, not available in Canada at the time, and I just thought, here I am at a fork in a road. I'm at Toronto General Hospital being evaluated for double lung transplant. They are measuring my body. They're measuring, doing ultrasounds on my rib cage to see whose lungs would fit in this body. And it was something so raw about that moment of knowing that I am being measured, fitted for new lungs, but I am not ready. I felt this fire inside of my belly that this is not my journey this season. I'm meant for something different, something more in this moment. And then I saw Jan speak at this women's conference, and she spoke about the Slay the Mic program. And I gotta be honest, when I first saw Jan get on stage with her energy, and I was so tired. I was like, I don't know about this girl. Woo! But Jan getting up there and speaking so freely and boldly and unapologetically, and I was sitting here on the surface looking very, not shy at all. But inside I was really scared to say my truth and to speak my voice. So I approached Jan afterwards and I said, I'd love to learn more about your course. And she's like, don't ask me, ask that girl over there, she took it. So I asked this woman and she was like welling up saying this course changed mine and my husband's life. We're different people after it. It's the best thing I've ever done in my life. And I knew that's exactly what I needed, so I signed up immediately. And during that course, we had to stand in front of a group of women. It was all women in that one. And I'd never met these women before, and I stood up and I said, I have cystic fibrosis. And that was the first time I'd ever said those words to anyone. And I proceeded to say, this is what I need right now. There is a drug that's available in the US and it's not available in Canada.
Oh my gosh, can we pause? I'll never forget that moment, yeah. You said it like, there's this drug that I need, and it's in the US. And I didn't know much about cystic fibrosis. I think I might have heard it, but not known anyone or met anybody with it. And I was like, okay, there's this drug you need. Not realizing that this is a drug that you could save your life.
Yeah, at the time, my best friend took the course with me, and she just sat there bawling because she knew how, there weren't just words I was saying, this would truly save my life, and I was actively dying if I didn't have this medication. So I used everything I learned in Jam's course as a jumping point, and I got so damn loud after that course. I contacted anyone that would listen to me. And I said, I have cystic fibrosis, I will die without this medication, and I need it now. I spoke to MPs across Canada. I went to the local news first, then I went to national news levels, and I did not stop until I became the first person in Canada to receive this medicine called Trikafta.
When Stephanie called me, I was in my office, and I think I actually was crying. I was like, babe, she got the meds.
Yeah.
Like, we talked about that. We talked about it. And then you did it. And I had to go back to Jim for a second. There might be some feedback. I gave Jim a mic. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Jim, when we had our pre-call, oh wait, there's a feed. Turn it off, Jim. Get out of here. We tried. When we had our team call, to see the pride on your face when you talked about the force that you were married to, do you remember what your emotions were when she finally got that medication?
Oh, you can't describe the tremendous sense, and I'm going to say this selfishly, relief. The sense of relief, knowing that finally that there was this reprieve, that Steffi was going to get this thing that was going to transform her life. But it didn't happen in a vacuum. It happened because she made the event occur. It wasn't just hope. It was a complete, undeniable, transfixed focus on making this specific situation a reality. She imagined in her mind exactly the moment and how it would be, what the room would look like, the tree would still be up, like it was envisioned how it would happen. And it's because of that determination, that drive to get it there. But it happened because of the fact, and I have to thank you so much for this, Jan. What wouldn't have happened had Stephanie not found her voice. I knew. So going back to what I was talking about before, about being patient and giving Stephanie her space and her time to figure things out for herself, I instinctively knew that if Stephanie found the moment to be able to speak about it this openly, that it would be transformative for her. That was the thing that was holding her back. And then finally she found that voice. And did she find the voice? She went full bore, contacted everybody, made a social media campaign about it, and because of it, and not just that, we're on our way, I'm sorry guys, I'm gonna gush about her, she hates when I do this. So we were on our way to an appointment at St. Mike's that Steph had, and just before this, right before Christmas, Stephanie had sent a care package to every single executive and every person at Vertex Pharmaceutical with letters from myself, from Stephanie, from our little boy, with pictures saying, this is the life that you're gonna save. And I remember being in the car January the 8th, and Stephanie got an email from the chief pharmaceutical officer of Vertex saying, what's your clinic and who's your doctor? And the next day she went back for a follow-up appointment, and she was told at that moment that she was going to be accepted for compassionate care for this particular drug. But it happened because of finding her voice.
I'm surprised I'm not on the no-fly list because I sat I was a dog with a bone. After I found my voice, you could not shut me up. But I sat before Christmas at Starbucks, laid out all these pictures of my family, and I said, this is my son. You need to save the life of his mama. This is my sister. My sister was my surrogate. She carried my little boy for me. You need to save the life of her sister. This is my husband. He's rooted for me this entire time. He's cheering me on. You need to save his wife. and I put them in a registered mail so they'd have to sign when they got it, and I sent it to every single executive at the pharmaceutical company.
She did that. But then, things changed.
Well, there's a lot of amazing community effort though before it changed.
Okay, all right.
There's a lot of, when I got my medicine, that was great, but it also came with a tremendous amount of upheaval. I had letters and messages and voicemails from people all across Canada saying, why did this lady in Pickering get this medication and not my little boy, right? Ew. Why did this lady, my daughter's gonna be on life support, why would this lady get this medicine and not my kid? So myself and 2 others with cystic fibrosis, that we were all sort of in the CF closet, if you will. We did not feel safe coming out and saying that we have cystic fibrosis. The 3 of us started a national movement called CF Get Loud, and we got 7,000 people together, and we made big federal change in our government and stopped legislation that was coming through that was going to stop the medicine from coming into Canada. And Trikafta was the fastest approved drug by Health Canada ever.
For those of you who are part of the STM family, you know, lesson 1, we always talk about, let's stop thinking what's the worst thing that can happen when I use my voice, and what's the best thing that can happen. The best thing that can happen is you can save your life. The best thing that can happen is that you can save other people's lives. The best thing that can happen is you change the legislature. Like, there's so many best. Do we have time to think about the worst? I don't think so. I don't think so. I've admired watching your fire the last couple of years. But again, I've admired watching this duo. No, for real though, because I'll you know, I've been married for 10 years. There's times we disagree over really petty stuff, right? Right? But like, yes, but to me, like, I named this fireside chat couple goals. Yeah, I don't like olives, and what? You're gonna bring this up right now? I want the olives. They're guys. I'm not saying olives are disgusting, so is mushrooms. When I looked at this, I'm like, this is couples goals right here. To fight with your wife, to see you sleeping on the hospital chair. Hold on, when it was Stephanie's 40th birthday party, tell them, and I will cry saying it, you tell them what Jim did. Tell them what Jim did.
So we had a revolving door surprise party. So it was like an inside out surprise party. I got to the restaurant first with Jim to meet my sister for lunch. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh wait, my parents are here. And then my best friend was there. And then my nurse from Sick Kids that I've seen for 18 years was there. And then all of the people I used to work with, 65 people showed up at Shops of Don Mills.
There was a parade.
There were bagpipers. When I was really sick, I kept saying, and this was honestly, the thought of me becoming 40 felt like I was gonna own a unicorn one day. It did not feel even within reach in my wildest dreams. So I kept saying, if I turn 40 one day, I want a damn marching band. And it happened. I got this marching band. But then, when I was like, no one can ever celebrate my birthday again, this was too much. This is getting gross. The next week, my neighborhood, I live on a very steep San Francisco type hill. I wake up in the morning, I'm hearing boom, boom, boom. I'm like, who is playing this music this early? And Jim's like, I don't know. Why don't we go outside and see? I come down, literally marching band outfits, bonk, 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 all the way down the hill with banners, a giant banner that says Happy 40th Birthday, Stephanie, and my entire neighborhood in costumes. It was really sweet.
Unfortunately, we only have 5 minutes left. I know. But like, let me say this, okay? And then I want you two to have the closing thoughts. Going back to what I said about, being married for 10 years and we bicker, like, I see this and I see a couple who are so deeply rooted in one another. And couple goals is not like the trips you go on and the gifts that, your partner gets you that you can flex online. To hear this man say, let me gush about her for a second. Like even in our pre-call, he's like, yeah, I gotta gush about her for a second. Gush about her some more, Jim. Gush about her one more time. And then you could gush about him. And then we could all gush together. Gushiness.
I genuinely believe that Stephanie was put on this planet for this specific goal. Because her lived experiences, her educational experiences, the talents that she has, the fact that she's a graphic designer, she does social media stuff, I don't think another person in Canada could have done what she had done. I genuinely believe that. And I also genuinely believe that God put me in her trajectory to be the person to keep her head above water so she can do what she can do. This is retrospective. This isn't like we dated and like, I'm supposed to be here for a reason. No. This happened because of the fact that someone needed to be there to help to keep her head above water so she can then, like there's 4,500 Canadians with cystic fibrosis, 90% of them benefit from this drug. Together with the other crew members of CF Get Loud, they've literally saved thousands of lives in Canada. So I 100% will raise my voice to the rafters to let everybody know what she's done, but the other reason why is because I want her inspirational story to be inspirational to other people. Because if she was able to do this at a time when she was at the lowest point of her health and emotional well-being, and then to climb out of this hole, to do what she did, my goal at that, I realize this in retrospect, was to be the person to get her there. And that's as a husband, as her, like she's my best friend, you're gonna make me cry. So this is why I'm here. This is what I'm here for. And I can't stop talking about it, and I won't stop talking. She's gonna kick my butt later, but for all of you guys out there that are part of this, that you're hearing this, if there's something that you get inspired by from this story, you could be the same type, you can have the same kind of impact in your community. Start small, and then get bigger from there, and then it can become a national movement like Steph.
Stephanie, you have 15 seconds to pump this man's tires. And you better pump it good, Stephanie, okay? Chip's out when you're giving us notebook material. Come on. Praise him. Oh gosh, Chip is so much better at pumping tires in this relationship than I am. But I will say that at the end of the day, we are still a man and a woman, you know? And it's really hard to go back and forth from someone that's my caregiver to saying, it's our anniversary, you know? It's like, sexy time is weird when you have lines in your body and you're on oxygen. Like, the thing is though, when you're in a relationship, for a man like this to fully and wholly accept the person that he's with, and still when I have, you know, pig lines coming in my arms and coughing, he still finds me sexy as hell. So I think that is just for someone to be this kind, absolute kindness in a marriage is something that I'm truly grateful for forever. But to bring it back to Jam, if you have a fire in your heart and you have a message that you want to get out to the world and you do not know how to execute it, you talk to this woman. Yes. Because a little voice that I had that wanted to scream but didn't know how, and I didn't want to just make noise, I wanted to take big action. This woman, she lit that flame, she lit that fire, and I will forever be grateful. And when I got that call that my life was saved, Jan FaceTimed me with the same tears. It's like, so I'm just so appreciative that this woman came into my life, and I will forever be grateful for Jan.
And that's it, thank you.